Yep. Great question. So the next thing you need to do is you need to get a business bank account and a business credit card or a debit card to that bank. But that is you need to keep your business and personal separate. If it's all together once, now's a great time to keep it all separate. It's going to make taxes easier. It's going to make your life easier. And so that's the first thing I would do. Go to your banker, go local, find a banker, get your bank account set up. And all these softwares I mentioned before, like Todd says, they're not writing me a check. And all of them will be able to import all your transactions, or you could import each transaction yourself. So they do make it super simple in that way. And that way, again, you can keep your business, your personal. Highly recommend that urgently.
Welcome to the Spiro Podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. With your hosts, Todd Kivimaki and Craig Magrum.
Welcome to the Spiro Podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. Spiro is a software platform designed to really manage and scale up your real estate photography business. I'm Craig Magrum. I'm the business development and client care specialist for Spiro and the host of the Spiro Podcast. And along with me, as always, our co-host and owner and founder of Spiro, Todd Kivimaki.
Hey, Craig. Hey, it's great to be here today. Thank you all for joining us. If it's your first time, welcome. We hope to bring you some value today. If you're joining us again, welcome back. Hey, if you're coming for the first or second time, or maybe third or fourth time, shoot us an email. Let us know what you want this to be about. So we've had some good suggestions, but we want to hear from you. You can email us at hello@spiro.media. Anything to scale and supercharge your real estate media business. Want to help you out with it. At WOW, which is our real estate photography business, we have a lot of information to pull from and can get you real life examples. I was just at a real estate meeting this week. Met with a number one realtor in our state, and then joined the real estate meeting. So if you want to know what managers are looking for, what to say at a real estate meeting, let us know what you guys want, and we will put them in a priority list for you. So we want this to be your podcast. We want to bring value to you. And Craig, we got an exciting one today. Well, okay, I take that back. So maybe it's not exciting. It's like buying tires for your car, but it's necessary. Like if you don't have tires on your car, you're going down quick. So
right.
What are we talking about today, Craig?
Yeah, I'm glad you qualified that, because I'm like, Todd, this is no disrespect to our guest, because he's passionate about this and he's very, very good at this. But yeah, we're talking about accounting. That's right, accounting. Yeah. So I was thinking back when I was in college, Todd, and I was choosing my major. I really liked computers. Okay, so I chose information systems and operations management as my major, and I'm plugging along in my undergrad classes, and I come up on two classes, accounting 1 and accounting 2, and I worked my rear end off to get B's in those classes, because I couldn't let myself get C's, and it was torture. For me, it was absolute torture. Numbers and crunching numbers is just not my forte. I can balance my checkbook, I can take care of basic finances, but
you have a checkbook, Craig? What is that? No,
okay. I'm old. I know. I'm old. I do use software to help balance.
Just kidding.
No. It's good. It's good. So I was talking to my advisor about this. I'm like, I'm really struggling with these classes, and my advisor, whether they were right or not, they said, well, your major, you're going into a field where you're going to have to write business programs to solve business math issues. So if you're not really liking or understanding, more advanced accounting techniques, you might want to choose a different major. And I went into communications. So, fast forward, multiple years later, I started a real estate photography business, and I realized one of the things I have to get in place is my books, is crunching the numbers, running some good accounting. And I'm like, do I have to do this? And, there's probably many more out there starting their own businesses facing the same issues. We're passionate about photography. We love our creative, outlet. And we're trying to make a living doing this, but you have to have some basic knowledge of accounting. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yes, it is. So I'm this individual has been with me at WOW for over 6 years now. And I actually brought him on because at WOW at the time, I was a little over 6 months behind in my bookkeeping. And we were scaling like crazy. We were shooting probably at that time 3,000 or 4,000 shoots a year and scaling. So he's really allowed us to scale. We shot just about 12,000 shoots last year, and we manage many departments. And he has allowed me to scale. So Derek Mayer, excited to have you on today. He is our WOW general manager, and he does all of our bookkeeping and financial planning. So Derek, welcome to the podcast.
I'm happy to be here. Even though we're talking about accounting, I was the one that went through accounting. I was in marketing and I took an accounting class and fell in love with it. So, like you and I are on different tracks where I was like, man, this is the business. This is what I love. I love crunching the numbers. I had a great accounting professor and really instilled a lot of passion for me with accounting. So I'm happy to talk about accounting because it is super important and vital to the success of business in general. And, and I like to impact people, I like to impact business. And this gives me the opportunity to do that. So I love what I do. I love figuring out problems, even though they give you headaches sometimes and numbers can be difficult. But it is really a lot of fun. And it is really fun to see the business grow using numbers and strategy. So happy to be here.
Derek, I'm just going to jump in and say I'm thankful for people like you because of people like me. It takes different people with different gifts and talents and loves and passions to really make a cause or business, in this case, really succeed and move forward. So thank you for what you do. And thank you for bringing the gifts and talents that you do to WOW Video Tours to make it successful.
You're welcome.
So Derek, so let's talk to a photographer out there who is busy, growing their business, excited about growing their business. And there is always that last thing that is bookkeeping. They are remembering a lot of what needs to be invoiced. They're probably manually inputting that into some piece of software. They're hoping to collect, they might need to do some collections. So let's set the scene of the individual that's just focused on growing, and they know that, we're going to do the right thing for our client and we'll get the numbers figured out at some point. What's the suggestions? That's kind of, as I was when you came on a little over 6 years ago, I was focused on taking care of the client. I thought if I'm going to get the shoots in there, I'll collect for them eventually. So what advice would you give to an individual who is kind of putting accounting on the back burner right now?
Yeah, good question. I think it's important not to do that. I think it's an easy trap to fall into, and some of it's going to happen because you're growing your business, you're out there, you're knocking on the doors, you're working 16-hour days. Oftentimes, the last thing you think about is the numbers. And I kind of want to flip that. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do the work. It just means you have to prioritize that it gets done. And so I guess my first thing would be, yes, prioritize your numbers. And I think you need to discover quickly if it's something you want to do or something you do not want to do. And it's okay either way. You just have to be honest with yourself and say, no, I don't want nothing to do with numbers. I just want them done. And that's it. I'm done. And I think that, like, I've talked to lots of business over the years that they don't prioritize it. They don't, so they don't do it. And then they don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it, what they're working on, what their goals are. And then they just get so far behind, and then they become unhappy with what they are doing. They're unhappy because they're working all those hours to get what? More money. But am I really making more money? How much money do I want to make? How much, what am I paying out? Like, we've talked to some photographers in the past that were paying so much in editing that they never were making any money, but they were working all the hours, so they thought they were making money, So that's why I think we should, all businesses should prioritize numbers. So, which again, doesn't mean you have to do them. So what do you mean you don't have to do them? What does that mean? So I think the first thing you need to do is find someone to do the numbers. And there's a whole lot of options out there. For example, you could go through Upworks, a freelance site, and you could post a job where you want either a temporary or a full-time bookkeeper. You can take applications through there, set your what you want to pay. I always recommend going local. If you know someone that's reputable in the community to do the numbers, then I think that can be very beneficial. And it may not be as expensive as what you're thinking. I always recommend you get 2 or 3 quotes, and you have clearly defined what they're going to provide for you. So yes, I definitely think we should prioritize numbers and quickly figure out if you want to do them or if somebody else should do them. And if it's someone else, either, kind of depends on your budget with, I need to go local, try local first, and try freelancers as well. And there's lots of people out there that are good at bookkeeping that can make you just feel a lot more confident with running your business.
So you mentioned a couple of times, Derek, if you're not comfortable doing it and you don't want to do it, have somebody else do it. And you mentioned, okay, get some quotes, and it might not be as expensive as you're thinking. For someone just starting out that may have no idea and has a limited number of clients and a limited budget, can you give a ballpark on what something like that might cost to have somebody come in from the outside and work on your accounting?
Yeah, great question. I kind of in the $200 to $400 range is where I was. My first gut is on that. I think I quoted for WOW, which is a big company that was close. I quoted outsourcing our bookkeeping, and that was closer to $1,000 per month. But that was also for there's lots of things going on with that quote. So I think if you're shooting 300 to 2,000 shoots, that 200, 400 range probably makes sense. But I know it's different in every markets.
Derek, just to clarify for our listeners, so if you're shooting 300 to 2,000 shoots per year, and is that estimate you gave a monthly figure, just so that our listeners know? Yeah.
So yes, it is a $200 to $400 per month, and yes, I was thinking 300 per year to 2,000 per year shoots.
Got it. Yeah, it's always nice to know kind of where we start for somebody getting into the business, for the first time. Now, even if you do pass off that responsibility to somebody else, really, a business owner still needs to have a basic idea of good accounting, and what things mean. What are there resources out there that somebody could learn more about basic accounting? How to categorize expenses, just good practices for an owner to get into?
Yeah, great question. And I guess so the other half of people are going to want to hire someone. The other half are going to want to do it themselves. So let me speak to those people. But yes, so you can do it yourself. It's not that complicated. And there is a ton of resources out there to support you. So, and I'm always learning. So I always take advantage of any resource out there. I try to take advantage of it, whether that be YouTube. YouTube has a ton of information and video. So I've watched lots of videos on cash flow statements, on financial statements, on reconciling within the software that you use. So software is probably the next thing we should talk about. There's a lot of softwares out there that make running your business actually pretty simple. QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Xero are, I guess, the main competitors in the market right now. I would recommend, if I had to pick one right now, I'd probably recommend QuickBooks, just because in the past when I've used it, it's easy to use, it's easy to understand. The buttons make sense. You can do payroll with it. You can do all the things you want to do. It's loaded with features, and that's probably the one I would pick. It is a little more pricey than some of the others. QuickBooks for kind of mid-range pricing tier is $55 per month. FreshBooks and Xero are closer to $30, $35. But I do think you're getting some value with that extra 20. You're actually going to get a lot of value with that in the simplicity of use. We at WOW use Xero, which I'm not unhappy with. It just was a much, even as an accountant, it was a bigger learning curve than what I thought. And honestly, some of it I just discovered within the past few months, some things I was not doing it correctly, So then I went back to my research. I, went to YouTube, said, hey, this something doesn't make sense. How can I fix it? So I went to YouTube. I got, watched videos for it. I called the accounting software company and said, hey, can you guys help me? And they had a good support team. So Xero does have really good support, which I appreciate. And then Google, like, what is this Xero how to reconcile? And they give you lots of examples and lots of step-by-step examples. So I just went through that and was able to get it figured out. So that is, for the people that want to do it, it's very possible. There's systems out there that make it really easy. And if you do want a free software, so there is a free one out there. I know everybody likes free. Of course, I like free. So I've done some research, and I actually use Wave Accounting for my personal budget at home. Wave Accounting is another software or accounting software similar to QuickBooks, similar to FreshBooks and Xero. It is completely free unless you pay for some of the add-ons like payroll. So I use that, again, for my personal finances, just because I kind of treat myself like a business in a way. So it's kind of fun for me. And that's been a really good software for me, and actually pretty easy to use as well. So if you're looking for free, that's Wave Accounting. But yeah.
And so, Derek, I just wanted to jump in here, and I just wanted to qualify that we're not actually endorsed or endorsing any particular software. So we haven't been sponsored by anybody. QuickBooks isn't giving us money or Xero. These are actual recommendations of what we have tried over the years. And Derek, you've tried a lot of them. You've tried to love some of them and realize that you don't for some features. So we would just suggest the same to our listeners out there. So you've picked a software, and make sure it's a software that you like. Secondly, what else, if I'm just getting started here, Derek, what else do I need to think about from almost just a compliance or getting started standpoint?
Yep. Great question. So the next thing you need to do is you need to get a business bank account and a business credit card or a debit card to that bank. But that is you need to keep your business and personal separate. If it's all together once, now's a great time to keep it all separate. It's going to make taxes easier. It's going to make your life easier. And so that's the first thing I would do. Go to your banker, go local, find a banker, get your bank account set up. And all these softwares I mentioned before, like Todd says, they're not writing me a check. And all of them will be able to import all your transactions, or you could import each transaction yourself. So they do make it super simple in that way. And that way, again, you can keep your business, your personal. Highly recommend that urgently. The second thing is you need to pick a payment merchant service. So the big three out there that I would recommend are authorize.net, which, fun fact, I just found out last week, Xero no longer will support authorize.net. So I have to go shopping as well for another payment provider for Xero. But Stripe is a good one. I've heard good things about that. Square, I've had some personal experience with Square, and I've been really happy with them. So those are the two I'm going to go look at first, and I have had some communication with. But those are definitely the big three out there, and I'm sure there's more.
So one of the most basic things, in accounting is keeping track of transactions, and then having to reconcile those at I'm guessing that for me, it's always the end of the month. Can you talk a little bit about basic reconciling?
Yeah, great question. So reconciling is reconciling what comes, from your bank to your credit card. So you want to make sure that every dollar is accounted for. So if you deposit $100, you should see $100 in your bank account. That reconciles and make sure we have all the money, So for example, if you go to the bank and you deposit $120 and, that's what you think you've deposited, and the bank says, well, you only gave us $100, then you have a problem. and you need to get that sorted out. It could be the bank made an error, maybe you made the error, but there is an error that needs to be solved. And this is probably the most simple, foundational, and most important things with accounting is reconciling. It's the easiest way to know that your numbers are correct and that everything is as it should be. So I highly encourage whatever software you get into that you learn how to reconcile. If you don't know how to, pay someone to train you how to do it.
Derek, we kind of have a funny, not funny story with that. Okay, so everybody's like, so to be honest, reconcile is like a 4-letter word. I mean, let's be honest. Like, who wants to reconcile? But Derek, we had something very recently at WOW, and I think this might bring home the reason why you should reconcile, because you found something, a transaction that was quite significant that we were not going to be paid that money or deposited that money. Can you tell that story? And then our listeners might go, oh, I like reconciling now.
Right. Yeah. And I guess to be honest with you, I always liked reconciling, but recently I've come to love it, So, we had a situation where we were depositing checks, just like every week we deposit checks, and the bank, one of the checks was $175, and they thought it was, thousands of dollars. So I depositing the checks for the week, and this check was $175 that we were depositing. It run through the software. We have a check scanner, and the banks thought it was a duplicate check that was $7,175. So the $175 they thought was $7,175. So we deposited the money, and they came back and said, hey, one of your checks was a duplicate, so in the amount of $7,175. So we're going to take that money out. And they did. They took the money out. And which is common when you have a duplicate or something like that, they take the money out. The problem is they never put that money in the first place. So when I was reconciling, I saw it was, our deposit was say $50,000. So I expected $50,000. But I was $7,175 off. So I double checked my deposit. I was like, the bank's never wrong, right? Bank can't make mistakes for $7,000. Like that can't. I know it's probably me, but I did my numbers, and I called them, and they said yes. We made that mistake. So they never gave me the money. They thought they did, but they didn't. So that's $7,000 that had I not reconciled, gone. Also, they still didn't put the money in. So I had a follow-up note to call them back. So I called them back and said, hey, the money's not there. Oh, sorry, we never created the case. Okay. I was like, do you understand this is $7,000 of money that you guys have taken that we don't have access to? And they apologized, and now they have a case. I still haven't gotten the money, but I have it on my desk right here, the notes to go back and keep calling until we get the money. But that just goes to show you, without a good reconciling process, that money would be lost.
Yeah, that's when you say, it's not me, it's you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that's a good example out there that as the numbers have grown over the years, and just to be transparent, $7,000 is a point to that we would eventually catch it. So Derek caught it, and you would think, how would you lose $7,000? Well, quite honestly, that number is proportional to what you might be depositing. So all those numbers add up over the years. And I think, Derek, you said something very wise, is don't assume that the bank is always correct. That's one thing, that the bank isn't always correct. In fact, the bank is always off by a decent amount, and a decent is not very definitive there. But the bank, it doesn't get it perfect. It's not like they walk out and they've reconciled every transaction and it says zero. So the bank does make mistakes. And just to remind you guys out there, this is just another transaction to the bank. So the bank's not like, oh yeah, this is $7,000. He could go buy a used car. Like, no, that's not what they think. It's just another transaction out of millions of transactions. So it really is your responsibility to make sure that you can go and find it.
Yep.
Wow. Good information. Derek, there's so many things that we could talk about, in relation to accounting and business accounting. And I think there's more we could dive into. But would you be willing to come back and share more of that with us on another episode?
Absolutely. I'd love to.
Awesome. Todd, any final thoughts from you?
It's one more thing that you need to do as a business owner. So I can't stress the importance of this. Get it set up, get a foundation in place. For me, I knew I needed to bring someone on. Derek was the perfect fit, and he has excelled and allowed us to grow. So you have to spend money to make money. And if you don't focus on the numbers and the metrics, then things are going to slip by, and you're going to end up in a point to where you can't make good decisions.
Yeah. For when I was running my business, I stayed pretty small, and I forced myself to learn. I'm like, I have to learn these things. I need to have a good grasp on what's happening. So the only outsourcing I did was actually for tax purposes, but I still did my day-to-day accounting. And for me, it kept me accountable to my business and to make sure I stayed on top of things. So individual decision, but a couple of basic things for you to really concentrate on as you're getting your business going, or maybe starting to scale it up. And we hope this has been a benefit to you.
Derek, what's your last tip for today for our listeners out there? Leave them with a little bit of something. What's the last thing?
One last tip I would say is have fun. Go. I know it sounds like not fun, but go have fun with it. Learn about your business, learn about numbers, and go make money.
Simple enough.
I like that.
Derek, thanks so much for taking time with us today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you all for tuning in. That wraps it up for another week at the Spiro podcast here. If you could do us a favor, and if you could share this podcast, it's maybe someone else out there, a colleague of yours that might find it interesting. Please share if possible. Hit that subscribe button. All those things help us out. And finally, I'll pitch you again on it. We want to hear from you. Email us, hello@spiro.media. Let us know what questions you have, and we'll be excited to take them on and continue to help you build the business side of your business.
If you're listening to the podcast right now on the audio only version, don't forget you can catch us on YouTube. Just look up Spiro, and vice versa. If you're only watching the video, we do have an audio version you can find on all the major podcasting platforms: Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, all of those. So again, thank you for joining us this week. Hopefully this has been riveting content that will really help you get your business under control. And it's good information, good solid foundation building information for you to really scale up and have a successful business. We care about you. We want to see you succeed. So until next week, enjoy what you've been blessed with and take a breath.
Thank you for joining us for the Spiro podcast, Managing Your Real Estate Photography and Videography Business. This is a production of Spiro and Wow Video Tours. You can find out more about Spiro's real estate media business management software at our website, spiro.media.